Let's talk about something a little wild. Every single day, you flush away one of the most powerful, complete fertilizers on the planet. You probably do it without even thinking. And then you might get in your car, drive to the store, and pay good money for the exact same stuff you just sent down the drain.
And just how much are we talking about here? Well, believe it or not, a typical two-person household produces about 5 gallons of this liquid gold every single week. That's more than 100 gallons a year of some of the best plant food you can get, and it's totally free.
Okay, let's look at the hard data, because this is where it gets really interesting. That NPK ratio, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, it's what every gardener's looking for. For human urine, it's roughly 21:4. Now look at a top commercial fertilizer, it's 27:1:4. I mean, come on, the chemical profiles are practically identical.
So let's be super clear about what that NPK number really means. The N, that's the nitrogen. And get this, 85% of the nitrogen in your urine isn't just like the urea in synthetic fertilizers, it is urea. It's the exact same molecule.
Just let that sink in for a second. We are paying for a product shipped all over the country in big plastic bags, while we flush the identical substance down the toilet multiple times a day. It's an absurdity hiding in plain sight.
And I really want to stress this. This isn't some weird folk wisdom or a fringe gardening hack. We're talking about hard, peer-reviewed science with decades of real-world data to back it all up.
For example, check out this Finnish study on tomato plants. The results were just staggering. The urine-fertilized plants didn't just grow a little bit better, they produced 4.2 times more fruit than the unfertilized ones. And what's really incredible is they also had more beta-carotene. The free fertilizer literally made more nutritious food.
And look, that wasn't just a fluke. A huge systematic review that looked at 123 different studies came to a really powerful conclusion. Across all sorts of crops, different climates, and soil types, urine-derived fertilizers consistently match or even beat their synthetic counterparts. The science on this is settled.
So with science this clear, you'd think someone would be trying to scale this up, right? Taking it from the lab into the real world? And you'd be absolutely right.
Let's look at a real-world example. The Rich Earth Institute up in Vermont. They run the biggest community urine recycling program in the U.S. And this is no backyard operation. They collect over 12,000 gallons a year and have an actual state environmental permit to process it into fertilizer. The farmers they work with, they report yields that match or even exceed what they got with synthetics. One farm even gets a whole extra cutting of hay each season.
Okay, I know what you're probably thinking. The ick factor is a real thing, and there are some totally legitimate questions we need to answer. So let's just tackle the two biggest concerns head on.
First one up, the big one, sanitation. Is this actually safe or is it, well, gross? So here's the deal. This is about microbiology, not emotion. Urine leaving a healthy body, it's basically sterile. The real risk for pathogens and human waste comes from feces. So, rule number 1 is just dead simple. Keep them separate. If you do that, you've gotten rid of the main source of contamination. And if you want to be extra safe, just storing it in a sealed container for about a month makes the environment hostile to most pathogens.
All right, the next big question is a modern one. What about all the trace amounts of pharmaceuticals that might be in our urine these days?
The answer, believe it or not, is in the soil itself. See, soil isn't just dirt. It's a living biological filter. It is packed with these powerful microbes that are amazing at breaking down these compounds. Studies show that any transfer to the actual crops is down at the parts per billion level. I mean, to put that in perspective, that's like 1 second in 32 years. The exposure is totally negligible. Okay, so we've covered the why. Now let's get practical and talk about the how. This is your super simple, actionable guide to turning this so-called waste product into liquid gold for your own garden.
It really just boils down to these 4 key steps. First, collect it separately from solids. That's the #1 safety rule, remember? Second, store it securely in a sealed container. Third, and this one is super important, you have to dilute it correctly. And fourth, apply it directly to the soil, not all over the leaves.
Now you're going to want to pay close attention here, because dilution is the most critical variable, and it's where most beginners mess up. For big, hungry plants like leafy greens, a 1-to-1 ratio with water is perfect. For more sensitive things, like seedlings or fruiting crops, go with a 1-to-10 ratio. And for potted plants where salts can build up, you want a much weaker 1-to-20 dilution.
And here's the last really critical safety rule.
Just for your own peace of mind, for any crop that you're going to eat raw, like lettuce or carrots, just stop all applications at least 1 month before you plan to harvest. This gives that amazing soil ecosystem plenty of time to do its thing. Now, following these steps at home is one thing, but to really grasp why this matters, we need to zoom out and look at the alternative, industrial fertilizer. The process to make it, called the Haber-Bosch process, is insanely energy-intensive. It uses up to 2% of all global energy and 5% of all natural gas, and it's a huge source of greenhouse gas emissions.
And the impact doesn't just stop at the factory. Runoff from this stuff pollutes our waterways, creating these massive algae blooms and oxygen-depleted dead zones. It releases nitrous oxide, which is a greenhouse gas 300 times more potent than CO2, and it leaches nitrates into our groundwater. That's the real cost of the system we have now.
Which really brings us back to the main idea. Your body has already done all the hard work of pulling out and concentrating these nutrients. So why on earth are we spending enormous amounts of fossil fuel energy to recreate the very same substance through a polluting industrial process? It's a broken loop.
So what does it look like to close that loop? Well, the urine from just one person can replace about 9 pounds of synthetic nitrogen fertilizer every year. For a home gardener, that doesn't just cut down your fertilizer costs, it can totally eliminate them.
So let's just recap. Urea is urea, whether it comes from a factory or from you. The science is totally settled. The field trials have been done. The chemistry is not ambiguous. The only thing standing between us and a free, sustainable supply of incredible fertilizer is a cultural squeamishness that has absolutely no basis in data. Which leaves us with a really simple question to think about. Why are we still flushing it away?